Where there is a will, there is a way. Be rest assured that our president is a man of strong will and conviction.
President Bola Ahmed Tinubu assumes duty at Aso Rock Villa.
New Acting Controller General of Immigration calls for humane treatment of passport applicants.
The three of them, including the 7 defendants, have been convicted for conspiracy to commit murder and murder.
Murder of OAU student, hotel owner and 2 others to die by hanging.
And on Good Morning Nigeria today, we continue our conversation on President Bola Tinubu's inaugural address.
Now, with the swearing-in of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu into office as 16th President of Nigeria Monday at the Eagle Square, Abuja, his inaugural address unveiled a series of steps his administration would take to position the country on the path of economic development, stability, and prosperity.
Now, that inaugural address has been the subject of discourse as Nigerians look forward with high expectations from the new administration. Yesterday on Good Morning Nigeria, we had a conversation on the address, and our guests, of course, shared their opinions on salient issues. We shall continue that conversation this morning.
Yesterday, guests on the program advised President Tinubu to assemble a team made up of think tanks who will advance short and long-term critical policy initiatives for the country.
Now, they also emphasized the need for the new administration to invest in peace building and address grievances immediately in order to have the smooth running of the administration.
They decried the polarization and radicalization of the country along ethnic, religious, and political lines, and suggested public engagement and the revisiting of the previous policy recommendations on how to address challenges at the grassroots.
The guests were, however, optimistic that President Tinubu will address the worries of patriotic Nigerians going by his administration's blueprint.
And today we shall dig further into President Tinubu's address in the area of the economy, patriotism, peace, and more, as time will permit us.
That's right. Now, the president, if you recall, also spoke of his enduring faith in representative governance and his belief in the ability to reshape the nation into the society that it was always meant to be.
Now, to advance the common vision of a better Nigeria, the president solicits the support of all Nigerians in making Nigeria a more perfect nation and democracy, such that the Nigerian ideal becomes the remains, of course, the Nigerian reality.
Now, the new president commended the decision of his immediate predecessor to phase out fuel subsidy, which he said would save the country of resources that are badly needed for developmental purposes. Now, you have also noticed, Kirian, that all of a sudden, queues for fuel resurfaced with the pronouncement on fuel subsidy.
All right, and of course, we're going to touch on some of those issues that you have raised. We have raised in this band, and of course, you are watching Good Morning Nigeria on NTA network service. And of course, the highlight of the news will be coming from Lydia. But before that, we'd like to inform you also that we're going to be dealing with supplementary segments in the course of the package, which may include newspaper review, business reports, and of course, foreign news. For now, let's get to Lydia for the news highlights for this morning.
Thank you, Kirian. Good morning, Kingsley, and good morning, Nigerians. Here is the morning news. President Bola Ahmed Tinubu and his Vice President Kashim Shettima have assumed duty at the presidential villa in Abuja after their swearing in.
The president has already made pronouncements yesterday on the issue of the fuel subsidy. Where there is a will, there is a way. Be rest assured that our president is a man of strong will and conviction. And in the fullness of time, you will come to appreciate his noble intentions.
It has passed the Independent Corrupt Practices and Other Related Offences Commission Act Amendment Bill, and seeking, among other issues, to empower the Commission prosecute cases at Federal High Court. The Senate also approved the reimbursement of 16.7 billion naira to Borno State for federal government road projects carried out by the state.
You say 10 million, 20 million, the havoc that will be caused. Somebody can give that kind of money, go and pay. But if you know that you'll be going to prison for 2 years or something, you will think twice.
Meanwhile, the House of Representatives has moved a motion in support of the pronouncement of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu on removal of subsidy, appealing to Nigerians to be patient, resilient, and prayerful to enable the present administration fulfill its promises. The issue was raised as a matter of urgent public importance during Tuesday's plenary.
It concerns senior citizens whose agenda is to favor the downtrodden for the purpose of humanity, to salute his courage and boldness to serve our country, Nigeria, with honesty and integrity.
We wish this new administration good luck, all the best. We are all very hopeful. We believe that it's a new dawn in Nigeria.
Sequel to the official proclamation of the total removal of fuel subsidy by President Bola Ahmed Tinubu in his inaugural speech, independent petroleum marketers are capitalizing on the official statement to milk customers through an increase in the pump price, now selling between 250 and 300 naira in parts of the country.
We buy it at 250 naira presently now, and we are still hearing maybe it's going to 400 or 500, and we don't even know what's going to happen.
This thing just started unexpectedly. I didn't expect. I just came out to buy fare. I came here, I met all these things. In fact, you cannot continue like this.
Newly appointed Acting Comptroller General of the Nigeria Immigration Service, Caroline Wurola Adepoju, has directed all the passport officers nationwide to take necessary steps to ensure no Nigerian is subjected to any unnecessary delays or substandard treatment in the course of applying for passports. The new AG Comptroller General of Immigration read the Riot Act while addressing top management of the service moments after taking over from Isa Idris Jere, the immediate past CGI. In a statement by Tony Akuneme, Public Relations Officer, Nigeria Immigration Service, Adepoju commits to focusing on passport issues and staff welfare, as both will ensure a motivated workforce and take care of complaints of Nigerians. Until her recent appointment as AG CGI, DCG Adepoju was Deputy Comptroller General in charge of Finance. West African Institute for Financial and Economic Management is building capacity of states' debt offices to adequately manage borrowings at the subnational levels. To this extent, it is deploying a tool called Debt Management Performance Assessment with support from the World Bank, designed to, among other things, build sound practices in debt management.
What we've seen largely is at the federal level, there's a level of development, sophistication in terms of the DMOs and stuff. But at the state levels, you see that, deficiency in terms of capacity, in terms of transparency, in terms of the institutional framework that is required to package all this, and in most cases actually rely on the federal to do that.
Our last report states Osun State High Court sitting in Osogbo has sentenced the owner of Hilton Hotel, Ile-Ife, Osun State, Raymond Adedoyin, and 2 of his staff to death by hanging over the murder of Timothy Adegoke, a postgraduate of Obafemi Awolowo University, Ile-Ife. The Chief Judge of Osun State, Bola Adepele Ojo, who gave the judgment, acquitted and discharged 3 other suspects in the case.
So the 3 of them, including the 7 defendants, have been convicted for conspiracy to commit murder and murder. Late Timothy Adegoke did not die in vain.
In line with the provisions of the law, we will consult with our clients and take the necessary steps.
And that's the news for now. Good Morning Nigeria continues with Kirian and Kingsley after this timeout. Do stay with us, and good morning.
Nigeria means unity.
Nigeria means freedom to me.
Nigeria means greatness to me.
Nigeria is indivisible. There is nothing you can do. We all have to savage it together and learn to love each other. We are indivisible.
As a mother and a leader, I will always preach for peace and unity in this country, because that is the only thing that will give us progress.
Though tribes and tongues may differ, in brotherhood we stand, and it is the woman that does that.
The ABC candidates for the speakership position of the 10th House of Representatives, Right Honorable Tajuddin Abbas, PhD, Ian Zazzle, congratulates President Bola Ahmed Tinubu and Vice President Kashim Shettima on their inauguration. Right Honorable Tajuddin Abbas wishes them success in their tenure and calls on Nigerians to give them maximum support.
OVMA.
Oh, I wish you were here.
I'm always with you.
But it's not the same without you.
MTN 5G's amazing technology will change how we experience life and the internet. Get ready to encounter the incredible, and remember, no be juju, na MTN 5G.
The new Milo 3-in-1 Milky and Creamy is truly milky and contains calcium. No need to add milk for that rich, creamy cup, which helps to nourish and energize your kids.
How do I cope with this heat?
By staying 5 degrees cooler.
Body odor is caused by germs, and on hot days, the sweating and the odor are more. That's why you need to get the new improved Dettol Cool Soap, which offers up to 5 degrees instant cooling sensation.
Your skill is key to your professional growth in the competitive broadcast media industry. Take advantage of the following programs specially packaged by NTA Television College Jos to upgrade your skill. Computer General Application, date 8 May to 19th May 2023, 2 weeks. English Grammar and Pronunciation for Broadcasters, date 22nd May to 9th June 2023, 3 weeks. Basic Broadcast Accounting and Auditing, date 22nd May to 9th June 2023, 3 weeks. Marketing in the Era of Digital Broadcast, date 13th June to 23rd June 2023, 2 weeks. Drama Production Workshop, date 3rd July to 21st July 2023, 3 weeks. Intermediate Online News Reporting Skills, date 24th July to 11th August 2023, 3 weeks. The course fee for the 2-week course is 120,000 Naira, while the fee for the 3-week course is 150,000 Naira only. Accommodation inclusive. All courses will hold at NTA Television College near Old Government House, Rayfield, Jos. For further inquiries, please call 0803-079-5335 or 0806-980-9807. NTA Television College Jos, training you to be the best you want to be. Registrar Announcer.
The Council of Our Fathers.
My advice to these young people is please do not take us back to those harrowing days. You probably do not know what it is.
Nigerian youths, let's build our nation together.
thank you for tuning in to Good Morning Nigeria today on NTA Network. Now it's time for business stories. Maritime experts say the sector can contribute significantly to gross domestic product and joins federal government to scale up investment. Let's now join Kunle Ade for this and more.
With 10,000 kilometers of inland waterways in Nigeria, maritime experts have emphasized that it can be the largest sector of the economy and contribute significantly to the gross domestic product if the gains already recorded can be sustained and more investments are channeled to the maritime industry. Managing Director, National Inland Waterways, George Mogalu, said a public-private partnership arrangements and creating enabling environment will attract investors. He also remarked that the maritime industry is a key driver of economic growth.
But the potentials are quite enormous. So for us in this industry, it's about expanding, opening up, increasing the navigability of the entire waterway sector and building on what we have, improving on what we have, building new infrastructure, developing the entire ecosystem, and then the funds will start coming in. As to whether it has potentials, it has enormous potential. It's all about developing the sector. It's all about investing more in the sector. It's all about encouraging partnerships in the sector, and then the benefits will start manifesting.
He called for the harmonization of the transport sector to ease movements. With business news, I'm Kunle Ade.
All right, that was the business news package. Up next for us, newspaper review.
All right, and it's time to welcome Chikudi Okoli-Waja to newspaper review segment. It's our reviewer. Chikudi, you're welcome.
Kyrian,
yeah.
Kyrian, when I got in, as I greeted the director, I told him that I was moving towards the GOK presentation. Kingsley Kyrian. I'm happy to be here, gentlemen.
Yes.
All right, glad to see you.
Thank you.
As well.
All right, because we have two papers.
Well, basically the same stories. That the lead story we have on the front page of the Punch newspaper. But let's kick off with those stories above the nameplate of the title. Tinubu inherits over 16 trillion naira uncompleted projects. Tinubu inherits over 16 trillion naira uncompleted projects. That's page 28. 11 trillion naira spent on moribund refineries in 13 years. That's according to a committee of the House of Representatives. ASU caught OK's no work, no pay policy. Then subsidy as a kicker says fuel sells for 600 naira per litre. Queues worsen as filling stations short. Tinubu, NNPCL, GMD, others meet. Framework for removal underway. Federal government cannot fund subsidy again. Owes NNPCL 2.8 trillion naira, says Kiari. Kwara, Ekiti, and Bayelsa governors, others warn marketers against hoarding. And the photographs there are from different scenes across the country with respect to the fuel scarcity, to Abuja and Lagos in particular. National Assembly anti-zoning group condemns alleged plan to arrest Betara and Yari. Return government property, Sokoto tells ex-governor's aides. Federal roads, reps OK 17 billion naira refund to Boronu. Details on page 30. And very quickly, we also take a look at the window page of Nigerian Pilot. The story below the nameplate says presidency to blame for sending Onoche to NDDC despite INEC nomination uproar. That's according to Mite. The lead story, of course, is on the fuel subsidy issues, and I've already read some of those headlines similar to that of the Punch. Tinubu finally assumes office, meets CBN governor and NNPC LGMD. Kalu says Senate presidency of Igbo extraction still alive. Court sentences Adedoyin 2 staff members to death by hanging. Tinubu orders DSS to vacate EFCC office immediately. That's in Lagos. And Senate amends ICPC Act, slams 2-year imprisonment on false petitioners. And 74.3862, just simply $74.3 billion expended on fuel subsidy from 2005 to 2021. That's according to NTA.
Okay, now let's turn to the Nation newspaper. Above the name flag of the newspaper, we have trending stories. National Assembly okays refund of 16.77 billion naira to Borno State government. News is on page 7. Federal government owing NNPCL 2.8 trillion, says KRA. NATI, 13.6 trillion spent on subsidy. All right. The lead story on the Nation newspaper: stock market gains 1.5 trillion naira on Tinubu's policy direction. Gain is highest in 30 months. Naira firms off marginally. Okay, it's on page 3. That's where you get all that. And below the photo story here, PDP LP open case before tribunal. Petrol crisis trails president's fuel subsidy is gone pronouncement. Marketers short filling stations, loading of product stops at depots. Shetima, why payment must end now? It's on page 6. That's where you get all that. OAU student murder, Adedoyin, 2 others get death sentences. And that was just yesterday. Tinubu orders DSS to end siege to EFCC's Lagos office. It's on page 2. Senate okays NDDC's budget. Chugodi.
Excuse me. Yes, Kirian. Let me quickly look at this before we look at the contentious one, the one that concerns every one of us. Return government property. Sokoto tells ex-governor's aides. Post-tenure pilfering should not be encouraged. This period when they are leaving office, they've left office already. Let's go and get what belongs to government that is still within their possession. This is not an unserious matter. Let's treat it with the amount of seriousness it deserves. And then we go to fuel cells for 600 naira per liter. Queues worsen as filling stations shut. And the first question you ask is, who is setting the price? Who is setting the 600 naira per liter price? I'm asking myself here, is it not the scenario of a madman taking up traffic control and presumably normal human beings obeying instructions from insanity? Where are the regulators? Why would it become a free-for-all? Just the other day, you were not on duty. Kingsley and I were talking about impunity. Kingsley and I were talking about lack of supervision. That is why we are left with tantrums of unscrupulous business minds. Who is enforcing? No, subsidy has gone, but the current price regime still rules. Have we said that market forces should now determine the price of fuel? Is it not old stock you're dealing with? Morality seems to have taken a flight in this country, even as religiosity mounts. What's the highest mountain in the world again? You know?
Everest.
The Everest. It is not right. There's something wrong with our attitude. We are too uncaring. We are too prone to what's in it for me and the devil take them all. Every man for himself and the devil take the hindmost. It is not right. Let somebody show them that nobody has changed the price of whether it's PMS, whether it's DPK, whether it is AGL.
In fact, you are talking to me, talk to Nigerians.
No, gentlemen. They say that I talk with too much passion, that sometimes I almost become incoherent. That is how I feel bad, how bad I feel about the situation, gentlemen. Tinubu, NNPCL, GMD, others meet, framework for removal underway. I've always said that dialogue. If dialogue ends wars at the end of the day, why not enlist it? Why not, let it come into force as early as you can? So I like this line. Tinubu, NNPCL, GMD, others meet. Framework for removal underway. Then, of course, reasons again why the subsidy should not subsist. FG cannot fund subsidy again, owes NNPCL 2.8 trillion naira. That should bother every one of us. And just the other day, Kingsley said, why the brouhaha? Why the furore? Why the pandemonium about removal? The budgetary estimates for this year, which have been approved and are in force, terminate the funding of a fuel subsidy by the end of June. Is it not so, gentlemen? So logically, the new president is only mentioning the obvious. Do you understand? So every one of us should bear in mind that this is something we have all been rallying around on how to solve, and think earnestly and honestly on how to get out of this jigsaw.
You know, for me, I'm not a professional in this field, but I understand simple arithmetic or simple, planning that one could do to get something done. The issue of subsidy has been there with us since the 70s, if I'm right. And again, if you check the number of years of practice, that is very huge. And to remove it, it's not going to be a child's play. It's going to touch in the entire fabric of the nation, economically, socially, educationally, and otherwise. That's what's going to happen. The way Nigerians have reacted is what is so negative, because if you have your nation in mind, there are sacrifices you need to make. For instance, we are talking about 600 naira now. In Enugu and Anambra, I'm talking about 800, 900 naira per liter as we speak, because I'm online with family members as to what is happening, or how it has been happening since yesterday. So it is unbecoming for people to just cash in and make money while others are suffering, and that's what has been the attitude Nigerians have put out, especially when it comes to the issue of oil and gas.
Yes.
So that's it's quite unfortunate. I want to make reference to what you said about cutting away of government property.
Oh yes.
So, it's a common thing. I mean, is it new? It's not new.
Executive
it's not just,
thieves.
Listen, it's not just at the level of governor. But CEOs of agencies, across the nation. I thought perhaps it's constitutional, that if you're leaving office, you leave with everything that you worked with, maybe cars, and even some people take even, cushions, settees like this. Yes, and even ACs, ACs, air conditioners. People carry them away. In some states, you see that many houses will not, many government houses will not have, air conditioners. The people have removed them, and that's what we do. We've been doing that over the years, and so it's not even new. It's not really. This one was blown out. That's why you're talking about it.
Well, government property is government property. Simple. And if you have completed your tenure and there is no ESCO resolution permitting you to retain that item, then you return it to the government. An item like a car, for instance, you return it. I think these stories that we are seeing on the pages of the papers are somewhat sensational. What I want to read would be the state government reporting such persons to the ICPC.
Thank you.
That's all. And the ICPC will take it out from there.
Thank you.
And ICPC is working, and they will deal with such issues straight away. Now, as for fuel subsidy, I think that part of the conversation that Nigerians should be having now will be on consequence management. Because it is not just fuel subsidy as an item alone, so you will take it out and then, everything will be all right.
Ripple effect.
Or what are the consequences? Some of which you have already touched on. Some of which we also have touched on Good Morning Nigeria. Today again, the House of Representatives Committee is drawing our attention to the inefficiency of the refineries. We own the refineries as a people. And if we have spent 11 trillion naira over a 30-year period, are we going to continue that? What is the plan to deal with those refineries? That must also be afoot. The refineries, those of them that are going rehabilitation, what is the issue? And more particularly, price gouging. and hoarding. These are economic offenses. Yesterday, I talked about the fact that hoarding, and I'm happy that some state governments have already issued warnings, even though some of those warnings are somewhat exaggerated. Because you say any filling station that is hoarding fuel, and if they are caught, you would, I don't know, somebody was saying that they will revoke the CFO issued for that particular land. Suppose the land is leased. In other words, the fuel station is not the owner, or the company is not the owner of the land. Are you going to revoke the CFO of the owner?
Legal implications.
Those are legal. But the key thing is that Nigerians and government officials must know that this is the behavior of fuel marketers and those at the pump stations. Their behavior is an affront to the rest of us. And we cannot say, oh, let Tinubu go and deal with it. He's the president. He said the fuel subsidy is gone. Let him face the consequences. All of us must also rise, because at the end of the day, we are the ones who are suffering. You just said they are dealing with old stock. On what basis did you jump from, say, in Abuja, 195 naira to whatever price? I have not been to the filling stations. Yesterday were quite chaotic. Today, fuel stations are closed. I can't see any that is selling. Let the authority, which is in charge of downstream and midstream, go around. Why is your fuel station short?
That's it.
Why is if it's short, then you face the consequences. These are the consequences to talk about. Then, additionally, if you say that you are removing fuel subsidy, does it mean arbitrary pricing? Does it mean arbitrary pricing? Or does it mean collusion? Collusion, which will be anti-competition. What would be the role of the Federal Consumer and Competition Commission in all of this? Sorry, please. No, don't hang on. Let me. This is because suppose the marketers all gang up and say we will not sell our petrol for less than 700 naira a litre, without even bothering about the metrics. And then before you know it, in a few weeks or in a few months, some persons will be announcing themselves as the newest trillionaires in Nigeria.
Tell me what's
and then the people will be suffering.
Gang war.
Precisely.
So
what are the consequence management techniques that Nigerians must begin to discuss at this stage and say, fend off all these persons? And then, of course, we know NNPC says we have enough stock for X number of days. NNPC, are you still the sole importer? What price are they buying at the tank farm? What price are they? And so on. Those are the issues, so that we stop all this headache. And more importantly, I think that President Tinubu already clarified this yesterday through the spokesperson, that the withdrawal of fuel subsidy is not immediate. But unfortunately, the consequences are already there. So we are going to struggle with these consequences. May comes to an end today. So if it was supposed to end in June, which is June 30th, that will be another 1 month. We are going to struggle. You are going to see people, some marketers, they will be playing all kinds of tricks. They will be stocking and hoarding so that they can profiteer at the end. If that is going to be the case, and I suggest that will be the case, look, we might as well just get rid of the subsidy straight away and face the consequences.
Listen, see, all this is like saying, when you say, we are just talking, okay, when it comes to the practical reality, we may not necessarily get what we desire. See, there's connivance in all of this. When you say government, many governors have filling stations, if you don't know that. They connive with these marketers. Otherwise, why would, in the past 2-3 months or thereabout, or 2 months ago, that in Inaugura and other parts of eastern Nigeria, we were buying fuel for 450, 500, when it's 195 in Abuja, as the case may be.
Kyrian,
so why the difference?
Pardon me,
what I'm trying to say is that
fuel price has never been normal in the southeast.
Exactly, and the governors that we have in the southeast are there, most of whom have filling stations, who are conniving with these marketers. They never held meetings with these marketers as to say, why are you doing this to my state? Because of course you are in charge of the state. You should call the marketers to say, why is the price so skyrocketed? Why? What are
At the point I was asking myself, is it bridging cost? If fuel is taken to Sokoto and it still manages to sell within normal range, southeast, that is close to where you're pulling it from, refining, even Port Harcourt was working then. I was in Obosi, I was working for MBI then. I said, this is insanity. Fuel price has never been normal in the southeast. And only God knows
and people who are governing the Southeast, they care quiet over it. Why their subjects are suffering. That is what we are saying. These things have to change. If they don't change, then that means we're getting nowhere. But I believe, quite frankly, that the current administration now, headed by Tinubu, is going to make a difference because he said it, he knew, he understands all the problem, and he's going to face them squarely. It's on this note that we conclude.
Sorry, I know we are pressed for time. There are two issues. These have been running issues. The fuel thing just came as a consequence of the president's inaugural address. Two issues. Because we focused on it on Good Morning Nigeria, the National Industrial Court has ruled on the suit between the federal government and ASU over the no work, no pay policy of the government. And the court says it is legal for the government to say, if you don't work, you don't get paid. So let that be clear, because it is government did not formulate it, it is part of the labor law. What is not clear from the reports that I have read is what His Lordship, the President of the National Industrial Court, also held. That namely, that government cannot decide for ASU on the basis of the autonomy of the universities how they should be paid, that is to say the IPPIS, which was one of the arguments of ASU. Yes. They came up with their own UTAS and so on and so forth. There is no sufficient clarity from the reports that I have read. Now, is His Lordship saying, for instance, that ASU will on its own determine how it will be paid, or the respective governing councils would then, because they are their employers legally, determine how they will be paid? So I think we need to clarify that. The other one is the sentencing to death of the proprietor of that Hilton Hotel in Oshogbo. In Ilefe, because it was the chief judge of the High Court of Osun State that delivered the judgment. We remember the postgraduate student, yes, of Timothy Adegoke, who went to write his exam, yes, lodged in the hotel, and then after a while he was declared missing. The next thing, as the court heard yesterday, the proprietor of the hotel and two staff members of the hotel did two things. One, they disposed of the body of Timothy Adegoke, as was proved in court, and secondly, they also obliterated the record of his lodging in the hotel. Straight away, he has his right of appeal and so on and so forth. I think the Association of Hoteliers in Nigeria must take this as a serious matter. Are lodgers going to come to your hotel and fear for their lives? Are they going to come to your hotel and feel that they are unsafe? I don't know whether it is part of the Hilton brand. If it is, they have to change the name of that hotel. And happily, part of the civil consequence of that was also pointed out by the judge in the decision, that namely, from the estate of the proprietor of the hotel, who's been sentenced to death by hanging, yes, they should pay fund the education of the children of the late Adegoke up to university level, even right up to NYS.
Wonderful judgment.
And of course, the family can still proceed civilly, against his estate for other demands. And I thought that was a very significant,
very important.
Thing, very
Actually,
important
I wanted
decision.
to make it the first item, but fuel,
I'm even surprised that judgment came so fast. I like the dispensation of justice here. I mean, because justice delayed, you said justice denied. But I'm happy that's been dispensed with. And again, of course, whether he appeals or not, he's been condemned as a common criminal. The can kill somebody, or even if the man died in the hotel, why didn't you call the police and let them know? Are you an undertaker? You want to bury the person? Well, that's how we conclude the newspaper review this morning. We'll do that again tomorrow. For now, let's take a short break. When we return, we shall focus our attention on, of course, a further analysis of Tinubu's, that's President Tinubu's inaugural address. For now, Chugudi, thank you indeed for coming.
Thanks, Kirian. Thanks, Kingsley.
Nigeria means a lot to me.
And Nigeria means peaceful cohesion.
My country.
We continue to pray, and then hopefully we will come to understand that unity of purpose, unity of living together.
Our ethnic beliefs and background and culture is our strength.
Ever since the amalgamation period of 1914 to date, about 109 years ago, the people of Nigeria live very peacefully with one another.
I think diversity helps a lot to enhance robust development in Nigeria.
All over the country,
You know, you have so many ethnic groups, over 250. That is enough to tell you that this is a blessed country, and you know, God has kept, you know, together as one indivisible entity.
The ABC candidates for the speakership position of the 10th House of Representatives, Right Honorable Tajuddin Abbas, PhD, Ian Selzo, congratulates President Bola Ahmed Tinubu and Vice President Kashim Shettima on their inauguration. Right Honorable Tajuddin Abbas wishes them success in their tenure and calls on Nigerians to give them maximum support.
How do I cope with this heat?
By staying 5 degrees cooler.
Body odor is caused by germs, and on hot days, the sweating and the odor are more. That's why you need to get the new improved Dettol Cool Soap, which offers up to 5 degrees instant cooling sensation.
Your skill is key to your professional growth in the competitive broadcast media industry. Take advantage of the following programs specially packaged by NTA Television College JOS to upgrade your skill. Computer General Application, date 8 May to 19th May 2023, 2 weeks. English Grammar and Pronunciation for Broadcasters, date 22nd May to 9th June 2023, 3 weeks. Basic Broadcast Accounting and Auditing, date 22nd May to 9th June 2023, 3 weeks. Marketing in the Era of Digital Broadcast, date 13th June to 23rd June 2023, 2 weeks. Drama Production Workshop, date 3rd July to 21st July 2023, 3 weeks. Intermediate Online News Reporting Skills, date 24th July to 11th August 2023, 3 weeks. The course fee for the 2-week course is 120,000 Naira, while the fee for the 3-week course is 150,000 Naira only. Accommodation inclusive. All courses will hold at NTA Television College near Old Government House, Rayfield, JOS. For further inquiries, please call 0803 079 5335 or 0806 9809807. NTA Television College JOS, training you to be the best you want to be. Registrar Announcer.
The counsel of our fathers.
I will urge and advise our younger generation to use talent and brain to sort out problems, not arms.
Nigerian youths, let's build our nation together.
All right, you are still watching Good Morning Nigeria on the network service of the NTA. And of course, to continue our conversation on the inaugural address by the current Nigeria's 16th president, President Ahmed Bola Tinubu. Let's get some excerpts from yesterday's conversation, and Joseph Olsen did the compilation.
I remember during the election and during the time we were wrapping up everything, I was here a few times, and youth keep popping up because they are very critical and they are a huge number in our society. So to make them a fulcrum of his inaugural speech is a good thing. It shows he's thinking about them. It shows that the youth will definitely be the focus of his administration. And then the foreign policy objective for him, he says peace and stability, so that when you are stable, especially within our neighboring states and other countries around us, we know some instability close to us will naturally affect us. So making it a focus of his administration.
For me, one of the most important responsibilities of a leader is to inspire his own people. So I think my first most important message from what President Bola Tinubu said was the assurances he gave Nigerians and the hope and aspirations that he has built in the minds of many citizens. He first of all said, as far as he is concerned, political coloration no longer exists in his mind, and he sees every person in this country as a Nigerian. I think for me that is a very powerful message, and we hope that we will see this statement in practice in the discharge of governance.
I talk about the issue of subsidy, which for us as Nigerians has remained over the years a very challenging and topical issue. And right now, the reverberations, I can tell you right here in Benin, that even before he finished, and I'm sure he left Eagle Square, Nigerians in the those selling fuel and others were already reacting, affecting homes, affecting individuals, affecting businesses. As far as movements are concerned, is the issue of that is the removal of subsidy. That, I believe, is a challenge, and we are hoping that within a very short time, that issue should be properly addressed.
Those were excerpts from the first part of our conversation on the subject matter, and that was yesterday. So today we have three guests here with us in the studios. Let's begin with Dr. Abdulrahman Abu Hamisu. Abdulrahman Abu Hamisu is a researcher, political scientist, and public affairs analyst. Dr. Hamisu, we're glad to have you this morning.
Thank you for having me.
Okay. Also here with us in the studios is Chief Obizoba Chiemelu. Chiemelu is an ambassador of peace to the United Nations and Director General of Strategic Planning and Implementation of Ohaneze Ndigbo General Assembly worldwide. Chief Chiemelu, we're glad to have you.
Thank you very much. Good morning, our listeners.
Yes, it's Ohaneze. You are going to with some dialectical intrusion. Ohaneze.
Ohaneze.
No, you didn't get it.
Ohaneze.
I'll tutor you much later. Professor Abiodun Adeni, Professor of Communication, Deputy Dean, School of Postgraduate Studies, Base University, is also here with us this morning.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, so gentlemen, we're still digesting the President's inaugural address. One immediate consequence, of course, has already been felt in different parts of the country and subject matter of conversation, namely the promise to go the whole hog in removing fuel subsidy. We know that already, but there are other salient points that the President touched on in terms of what he intends to do in the first 4 years of his administration, which of course equals his first term in office. 3 days already. Dr. Abu Hamisu, let's begin with you. What did you glean from the President's address to Nigerians and ultimately to the world?
Well, the address by Mr. President was well tailored to issues that are affecting Nigerians. One is the issue of unity. You know that the issue has been disunity, divisiveness, impact of ethno-religious sentiment and politics that has polarized the nation. And part of what he said was that his government is going to be a government for all Nigerians, irrespective of where they are coming from. Whatever they believe is immaterial, that he was going to lead for the benefit of all Nigerians. This is reassuring. The other issue he talked about was his relationship with the co-contestant that contested with him. He said he was going to consult them. Whether they will make themselves available to be consulted is a different ballgame entirely. But he is saying he's not going to neglect them and he's going to work with them. He's going to consult them in trying to govern the country. And he went further to talk about issues around multiple taxation, that he was going to work on that so that businesses can thrive, and then a government will be able to earn money to be able to execute a lot of impactful policies and projects and programs. And this is really reassuring. And then he talked about having to move the country forward and for Nigerians to come together to support his government so that Nigeria can be repositioned. All of these are reassuring. The only issue is that there is always a clear difference between pronouncements at the Eagle Square and the real governance, because by the time you get to Aso Rock and you started getting briefings, then you come to understand that there is a clear difference between governance and then when you are making promises that these are the things that I'm going to do. So all of the things he's talked about are aspirations, but the reality is somewhere, and that is what we are beginning to see. over his pronouncement that subsidy will go. And what did the independent marketers and other affiliates did? They refused to sell. So if they have 20 pumps, they tend to sell 2 because they are waiting for government to say we've removed subsidies. So that, and other places, it was reported that they started selling at 600 naira. Just, he did not say that, okay, subsidy has been removed so anybody can sell at whatever rate. He only said that subsidy is not sustainable and it has to go. But he has not made official pronouncement on that to say, okay, this is the cap. But you know the way we are in this country. People have taken advantage of that. And this morning, wherever you go, you see a lot of long queues. So that is the true test of his pronouncement and the reality that I'm talking about.
Okay, good. We've had you. One of the takeaways from what was said for me is just that there's a difference between making speeches and promises and governance, in the real sense of it. You know, because when people begin to bring in, filter in some information as to what you need to do to, you know, to get on as a president, that's a different kettle of fish altogether. When the kitchen cabinet comes in and all that, that's understandable. Let's turn to Ambassador of Peace, Chief Ubizoba Chiemelo. What's your take on that? I'm sure you listened to President Tinubu's speech 2 days ago.
Very well. The speech was not, it was good, but not that fantastic because it's an inaugural speech. Definitely don't expect policies and programs to be formulated within inaugural speech. We've seen so many laudable inaugural speech at the end of the day when they get to the government house, maybe just like the last speaker said, when they get to the government house, they discover that things are not the way they are. But a very important thing he re-emphasized was the need for security. It's a key and strategy for development for any country that wants to thrive. The primary purpose of governance is securing the life and property of the nation. So he re-emphasized on the need for security, that he's going to tackle security head-on from day one. And we have talked about this security issue in this nation because it's escalating from Boko Haram to IPOB, from IPOB to Duduan session. So I mean, every region, virtually every region have issue of insecurity, one way or the other. And no country gain meaningful development where you don't have at least security situation to be curtailed with barest minimum. Having said that, I think he also talked about economy. Economy cannot develop. You can't create jobs because the government is not even supposed to create jobs. It's to create enabling environment so that businesses will thrive, a private sector will come in and play their role and create jobs. So the only confidence most of us have is that considering his pedigree, what he has done before, his antecedent, we believe that there will be some kind of change in the way of governance in terms of economy, multiple taxation. And during his campaign, you could remember that he also emphasized the need for credit because Nigeria is cash economy. If you want to buy a car, you go and pay 100% and take your car. You want to buy a house, you must have 100 million, 150 million to own a house. If we can be able to have credit economy, it will help and boost the productivity. So he has emphasized on this during the campaign, and also during his speech, he mentioned that economy is his priority. That he wants to grow the economy to at least average 6%, which is reasonable, okay, if the implementation and the program can be well designed, that it could to favor his speech. So I think so far we scored the speech reasonable good, and it's encouraging to the masses if the implementation process can also be put in place to be able to meet up with his aspiration. Because I know he wants a better Nigeria. And all of us want a better Nigeria. We want a peaceful Nigeria. We want a Nigeria we call our own. Not Nigeria, you stay in London and say they are stupid. You stay in US, you say Nigerians are stupid. We want a Nigeria, wherever you are, you want to come back home because you have security, you have good economy, you have good roads, you have electricity. These are the basic fundamental things that the government need to work on. He also talked about electricity, generating power, distribution, and transmission. The three components that take power to the door to the end users. You can generate 20, 30,000 megawatts. If you cannot transmit that same, don't have the capacity to transmit that same power to the distribution cannot get it to the end users. So these are things I believe head on he needs to also start mapping out strategy on how to do, because the issue of power is key and strategy for development of any country. No country survive with generating economy. For you to run your business, you have to put on generator 24 hours.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Chief Chair Mello, thank you very much for your opening comment. Let's bring in now Professor Abiodun Adeni. Professor Abiodun Adeni, what's your take on the President's inaugural address?
Okay, thanks for the invitation. You know, first, I think it's also key for us to look at the kinds of speeches that statesmen usually have. You know, speeches can be routine, maybe the one you do every day on account of your function, which you deliver as tempo, or maybe in a prepared test. But speeches can also be occasional, comes once in a while, you know, maybe 6 monthly, 1 yearly, and all of that. Then, of course, it can also be epochal, like the one that President Bola Tinubu delivered, signifying the beginning of another era, you know, and transiting to another era. And the context of the speech also can also be very important. It can be remarkable, or it can just be routine, irregular, and maybe usual, uninspiring. I would say the Monday speech was very inspiring. It was very galvanizing, very rousing, because it clicked, you know, all the pieces in the jigsaw that the nation was expecting were actually ticked. You know, it talked on economics, how to stimulate the multipliers, reflate the economy, you know, remedy all our imperfections, you know, increase revenue source, which is actually on a tailspin. He mentioned that, of course, politics as well, you know. I remember what Father Kutka, my Lord Bishop Kutka said the previous day, you know, that Nigeria is a diverse country, and managing our diversity is scientific. It just requires you to rise above classifiers, rise above all our divides, you know, and integrate us, making everybody feel that you are a father, you know. And it's a painstaking process. The president-elect, the president, I beg your pardon, alluded to it, you know, saying that whether you are from Port Harcourt, Onitsha, Enugu, Kaduna, Kano, Lagos, I remain your leader. That was not bad as well. Then quite different areas that he touched, you know, were areas we expect him to touch. Foreign affairs as well, we know that in the history of our evolution, we have only had two major philosophy around our foreign affairs. One saying that Africa is the centerpiece of our foreign policy, and the second talking about citizen diplomacy in the Obasanjo period. He pointed at his administration's interests in reinventing another form of philosophy, which was also reassuring. But I also want to connect with what my colleague said earlier, that oftentimes we have never been short of great speeches, because we do know when we have occasions like this, that is evening up to an epoga speech, you know, experts will come around the president to make sure that the speech, you know, is remarkable. It is not just routine or occasional, you know, but exceptional. We saw that happening yesterday. But going beyond that is the how. You know, the items have been well highlighted, but what about the implementation? What about the execution? It's actually the bane of our development. Yeah, it was rich on the items that we want to deal with, but the how, you know, was actually missing. And how is very, very important. Nigeria as a country has never lacked fantastic policy directions, outstanding work plans, unexampled prescriptions. But the problem is always the implementation. And if we pay a little more attention to implementation, and we are painstaking about it, not keeping our eyes off the ball, not losing focus, we'll definitely get there. Because fragility is something that should be a work in progress to build. And we have made the point severally that democracy is also not a destination, but a journey. But you do not have to take it for granted that you discontinue the imputation of efforts, from all sections of people in the attempt to get successfully to that destination. And this process, needs you to pay attention to every minute detail in the process. Do not continue from our past mistakes, improve on past errors identified in past leadership, errors of thinking that you have to reward loyalty, errors around ignoring merits, technocracy, errors around satisfying the whims and interests, caprices of family members, friends, at the expense of the larger community. Errors around not remembering that you as a person, you need to leave a legacy that will be much more sustainable. When the legacy or when the patterns, the way is around consumption, luxuriation at the expense of substantive development symbols, then it becomes problematic. Now we have had a speech, no doubt, it's been good, we have acknowledged that, but the next thing we need to be hearing, either in whole or in bits and pieces, is how it will be implemented. And beyond that as well, is that we want to see efforts, deliberate efforts being taken, genuine ones towards implementation. And that will start with the quality of human resources that we will assemble around himself that will be responsible for this implementation. If the quality is suspect, then of course we might become disillusioned. But if it is not, if we see it spiced, if we see a good blend of politicians and technocrats, like we saw in the Obasanjo regime, like we saw in the Jonathan regime, then to a very large extent, we can see that it may not yet be Uhuru, but we're getting close to it.
All right, thank you. When you talk about quality efforts coming from, appointments of persons with credibility and who are professionals in their various fields, that is good. We've had that, and I still need to be corrected. During Babangida administration, I think we had the best crop of economic managers, and as a matter of fact, both in science and technology, he made appointment, I know Ezekwe established Naseni and all of that. But again, as rightly put it, what about implementation? Where have we gotten to, even with the appointment of such persons with the credibility that you talked about? And again, another is that when you are at the helm of affairs and you have advisors, are you prepared to take their advice in the first place? One thing is to advise, another is for you, the advice to be considered by the man that has the final say. All right. Now, you talked about, let's say, chairman, the chief chairman. Yeah. You talked about security, and I want us to go to some specifics now. And I want to bring in Dr. Abdurrahman Abu Hamisu here now. I know you're not a professional in that area, but you are a public affairs commentator. Now, security is key when it comes to development. And of course, the security in Nigeria, the challenge that we have. In fact, I won't call it a challenge, it's a problem already. We've been with it for years now. And of course, the end is not in sight. And the thing is developing, some tentacles. When you talk about Boko Haram, the next thing you talk about IPOB, another thing, you talk about kidnappers and all of that. Now, strategically speaking, how do you think that the Tinubu administration will tackle security? He doesn't have any military background, right? And he needs some persons who are, who are gurus in that area. How will you do that, the civilian, to say, look, how do we handle these multi-dimensional security problems in Nigeria?
Well, except if we want to lie to ourselves, and I don't want to lie. The truth is always bitter, and we just have to state it. Nigeria is the only country we have. And I used to say it, if, for instance, God forbid, and we have a problem today, I don't see any of our neighboring countries that will be able to contain us in terms of population, in terms of even infrastructure. Now, the problem with our security is simple, is corruption and abuse of office. all we need to tackle security in this country is sincerity on all fronts. You see, the federal government strategy to achieving security, even in the Northeast, are two-pronged. One is the human security dimension of it, using material resources to inspire hope in the people. And that used to go in the form of humanitarian support. You go to distribute food items so that people will not participate in the war economy or conflict economy. I will come to that. The second aspect of it is the military approach, which is the use of kinetic force. Now, we've seen what has happened over time, where monies are budgeted for arms and ammunition and they don't procure them. Monies that are meant for the soldiers on ground as their allowances don't get to them. And we've seen mutiny happening even within the rank and file to protest that. Now, how do you get people on the ground and they are not motivated to the extent that their adversaries are more motivated than them? And that has led to so many things. Tactical withdrawal. Using the saying, the Africans say that he who fights and runs away lives to fight another day. But arms would have been done to the territory and the people that are supposed to be protected. Now, it became a war, a psychological warfare. And the people were between federal government troops and even the adversary. Now, the things that are meant for them, for instance, okay, they're supposed to be given, say, 50 modules of rice. They end up getting 2, or they don't even get any. And they see people stealing what belongs to them. Instead of you to give what belongs to the people, you are not giving to them. And then this other side are willing to pay for the services of these desperate people. Who are they going to support? And that is why you find even the locals supplying essential commodities that they need to fight the war. So, for instance, they need fertilizers to make bombs. Now, these people are desperate. The food that's supposed to get to them is not getting to them. And this other side is offering them huge amount of money to get them fertilizer. Then that is the war economy we are talking about. Petrol, they need petrol to move. And a liter of petrol in town is 200 naira. But if you can get it to the bush, you get 1,000 naira. Then the people will now say, okay, let us survive. And that is what is leading to this war. Then if you come to the kidnapping, the banditry, and the rest that is happening along Middle Belt, is one thing. And that is another point again that I want to use to underscore this, our conversation. The preference for profit over whatever we're supposed to do. So, for instance, if I am given the charge to say I am in charge of facilitating returns of people that have been displaced. Now, the first thing I will look at is, in the budget, how much can I make out of the budget? Then, what can I deliver to impact the life of the people? And I continue to say it. In as much as private motive will continue to undermine public interest in Nigeria, won't go far. And, even the incoming administration, if they cannot deal with the impact of private interest, the primacy of private interest, then we have a problem. So if I'm giving ID card today as a police officer, the first thing I want to do is for them to post me to where I can get something lucrative, not to provide security. So anywhere you have a people that have this kind of sense of reasoning, where private interest will always trump public interest, then there is a problem. That is what we are referring to as corruption every day.
What should the government do?
Now, what the government is supposed to do, which you see, there is no need somebody will steal 2 billion, and then you say, plea bargain, and then you take 1 billion back and ask the person, as Mr. Kisley will always say, go and sin no more with 1 billion. You took 2 billion.
I didn't say go and sin no more with 1 billion.
No, you said, no, I want to say, what I'm trying to say is that,
I mean, Kyria could be motivated.
You used to say that government will say, go and sin no more. You understand? Government will say, go and sin no more. You see, when Liu Kuan Yew, the leader of Singapore, was accused of just simple thing, he facilitated the entry of private sectors for mass housing development in Singapore. And at the end of it all, he bought a house. And the opposition said that it was a gift, bribery. you know, a sort of. As the president of Singapore, he took them to court. And they went through the whole thing. They saw the mortgage he used in paying for the house. And the discount that was given to him, out of appreciation of what he has done for the private sector. They said they did not find him wanting because he never requested for it. But what did he do? After the judgment, he donated the money to charity. Like, he doesn't need it. Now, until we get to the point that we do what was done in CBN, fight vested interests, those that are abusing the process, deal with them. But when you allow them, and you say they are party men, they are my brothers, they are my tribe, they are my this, they are my that, then a sense of impunity will develop. And a precedent will be set. So we have to separate politics from governance. We have to do one thing, institutionalize discipline. I bet you without discipline, whether we are going to vote 100 president in this country, we will never get a result. We need to discipline ourselves. We need to discipline our minds, and we have to change our priority. That public interest supersedes private interest. Until we do that, we will not get headway in this country.
All right, Dr. Abu Hamisu, thank you very much there for your comments. Gentlemen, I know that we're talking about security, and there are many ramifications to the security issue. You've raised the question of patriotism, you raised the question of elevation of public interest above the private interest, and therefore seeking to minimize corruption in our security management processes. But I want to bring in, if you may, a more general issue, one that you gentlemen have touched on much earlier, arising directly from the president's inaugural address, that it is one thing to speechify, another thing to implement. And Professor Abiodun Adeli, I want to start with you. Namely, we are all familiar now with the manner of speaking. That's the figure of speech. Yeah. That it hit the ground running. It's a hit the ground running, which means that from day one, you have your hands on the plow and then you are walking. But if you are plowing, you must be sure that it's not a rocky terrain. Otherwise, you know, the plow can't get you far. Yeah. Some also will argue now that the president was still at Eagle Square with his inaugural address done and dusted, but that the ripple consequence of the fuel issue, you know, has already started taking effect. Yeah. So rather than hitting the ground and running, you probably will have the equivalent of hitting the ground and then aquaplaning. You know, this is the rainy season when an aircraft lands on the tarmac and there's no firm grip on the tarmac. You find that it's a bit unsteady. And it's, in a sense, it's like crisis from day one. Yeah. Because you have labor, that's NLC, TUC, and other stakeholders, everybody saying no, no, no. But there are also voices that are saying, no, this is something that we have always wanted to deal with. But the president is facing this now. This is his third day in office without a formal team. How does this then, in your opinion, raise up the urgency of not stampeding himself into assembling a team, but of having to manage this aquaplaning so it doesn't become a crash land from day one, and then you can, of course, begin to deal with the other issues around security? Because let's face it, Kyria, if people hit the streets, if the economy, you want to grow the economy by 6%, and businesses are not open, they are not running, you can't achieve that. If inflation spikes, what do? The level of misery will also escalate. So from day one, or let's say from day 3 now, how should the president and his vice president begin to contemplate these issues around what we are seeing?
Yeah, it's a very important question. You know, first thing is that we have to understand that choice of personnel around leaders can be very, very important, you know, because personnel is supposed to be an extension of the leader, you know, because you believe in them, that's why you are choosing them. And they're supposed to be the route through which your vision, your mission will be implemented, either on a short-term or on a long-term basis, or maybe continuously in between as well. And of course, before now, I would have expected that Bola Tinubu, given his pedigree in Lagos, he's been an initiator, often, unique for, charting new courses, About, it's not one president that I would have thought by now would have made some appointments. I was expecting that maybe in the few days before his inauguration, we'll have had some names, like we see happen in the United States of America, and of course, even in this country. About 8 years ago or 4 years ago, in advance of Governor Nasir El-Rufai's swearing in, he gave us names of those who were going to work with him. And I didn't expect anything less from a Bola Tinubu, for instance, who I imagine is a postmodern president because he has all the trappings of civilization. He's noted for being good at man management, human resource assembling, etc., etc. This is 3 days now. We are not trying to browbeat him or to badger him into doing this, but of course, there's a sense in saying that when your human resources are well assembled, not just in terms of quality, but in good time too, it has a way of galvanizing confidence in the populace. And of course, if it is otherwise, people might begin to read meanings into it, that is this going to be the hallmark of your decision-making process? Are you going to be having problems, taking decisions? If it is taking longer than necessary, at least some basics, maybe a former spokesperson, maybe a chief of staff, for instance, maybe a secretary to the government of the federation who is going to be at the heartbeat, the springboard of general administration. All these things were done in the build-up to the Obasanjo administration, for instance. So like we said, is the last person that I would expect will cause this delay. But that will bring about, that will be showing this kind of delay. But of course, all hopes are not lost. We hope that at the appropriate time, but again, that time is getting late. I mean, he should be able to put his ass together and get things going as quickly as possible. So having said that as well, is the point around execution, which we mentioned, and we're saying that execution shouldn't just be, it shouldn't assume that he is the be-all and end-all. I remember the wonderful speech of the Sultan of Sokoto at the inauguration lecture. The Sultan drew extensively from the prescriptions, the philosophies of religious leaders around the importance of leadership. And what he's saying, the crux of it is that beyond the leader, as a visionary, as a principal bearer of a vision, are those that he's surrounded with. That people are going to judge leaders somewhat by those that he surrounded himself with. And that's very, very important. One of the downsides of the outgoing President Buhari is that largely you cannot dispute the fact that Buhari is a transparent person, in my own opinion, a honest person, very simple, but of course, we also know that he remained largely an oasis of integrity, a kind of silos of integrity while he was in power, because he found it difficult to rein in his characteristics into his lieutenants, And these are the things that we're talking about with the new administration. Build on the mistakes, the lessons of the past, so that we can bring about improvements. And if you do not do this, if we're beginning to see downsides, even in your early days, it doesn't speak well of the latter days, as the case could be.
Okay. Good. Thank you. Let's return to this issue of security, because I know you want to talk about it. And again, in the southeast of Nigeria, we began to experience some kind of uncertainty with respect to security in the area. We have some killings here and there, IPOB related, some are not IPOB related, and what have you. And yesterday, one of our guests did tell me that he does not intend to travel to the southeast any day. But I told him I just returned from there a week ago, showing that, of course, there may be uncertainty, but then it's not as bad as that. But the challenge remains. What should this administration do? Not just in the southeast. Just a few days ago, some men, went into a radio station and got in there and make their own announcement and all of that, which is some kind of civilian coup, if you ask me, because most coups survive because they use radio to communicate their intention. So this shows that it's been aggravated, but I was just wondering why some persons from Ibadan will do this, when of course we have Bola Tinubu as president of Nigeria, coming from southwest of Nigeria. What do you think the current president should do to address the issue of security differently? Because if you continue the same trajectory of what we're doing without answers, then we're going to get the same result.
Of course. Thank you very much. I've said this over time during our course of conversation in various fora. What we expect this new government to do is to build the confidence within the governance and the people. You cannot secure a nation where the people do not have confidence in what you are doing. You have to engage more with the people. You made mention of Southeast. If you come to the Southeast, even in the North, those people perpetrating this evil, even in the South Side, the kidnappers and all that, they come from somewhere. They're not from the blue, on the sky and moon. These are people who also within the community. But the people lack confidence with the government. They don't even know what the government is doing. So it's largely the cause of lack of confidence between the people and the government. That is why you see that even they don't even listen to the government because they don't even understand the direction of the government, where they're going. They lack trust. And that is more reason you see more different groups are springing out, not just the IPOP Asian or the militant and all that. Kidnapping is all, there's no any part of this country that you don't witness kidnapping today. So the solution, or what we expect the brand new government to do, is to begin to build the confidence between the government and the people. To begin to let the traditional rulers on the various communities, the local government chairmen, of course, like we discussed, we've chatted this over time, it's been dormant for a couple of years because these are people that are closer to the people. If you don't empower the local government chairman today is just a senior houseboy to sitting governors. You appoint them caretaker, every month they run to the government house and take some money to pay salary and take their allowance and put in the pocket. They don't even get their allocation directly. They don't even implement reaching out to the communities, reaching out to the various people. So if we begin to expand the 3 tiers of the government to make them work very well, the federal government, state government, and the local government, then that comes to the traditional ruler. They have a role to play. The clergymen have a role to play. The traditional ruler in the village, in the community, have information of what happened in the community. Even if it is not there, you have people in the community that will come and say, "Good morning, sir. That place was boggled yesterday." And we'll be able to know those who boggled that place. They have the information. So they have to work with the government. Because the security agency you're talking about, it don't sit in Abuja here to proclaim policies and programs, and you're not trickling it down to the people. And you expect to get the effect of it. It cannot happen. It doesn't happen that way. So you have to start building the confidence between the government and the people. You have to, the police, the way we are policing, I don't know whether they're underfunded or thereabout. Look at the various viral video you see from police brutality, collecting money from motorists, extorting people and all that. And they don't have confidence in our police anymore. The Nigerians don't have confidence in our police. The military cannot, there are things military cannot do because they have to work hand in hand. The police, the military, the civil defense, they have their various roles to play to secure the nation. So confidence is key between the government and the people to be able to secure the nation.
Okay, thank you very much, Chief Chair Melo. Let me return to Dr. Abu Hamisu. Dr. Abu Hamisu, in terms of the president getting on with the job of governance, as it were, at the political level of his administration, there are only 2 persons now in the presidency. That is to say, the president and the vice president.
Yes.
The other offices have not been populated. There are, of course, civil servants and public servants who work in the bureaucracy of the villa, who work in the federal public service, and including the civil service, who, of course, will aid them. The president's first meetings yesterday will give an indication of an understanding of where the issues are. Central Bank Governor and then the Managing Director or CEO of NNPCL. But we are still saying that if the situation were to persist, that's to say with the negative reactions to the removal of fuel subsidy, that could amount to a crisis. What needs to be done in the interim? Because this is not an issue that the president should be getting involved in. As we have discussed, security is on the one hand, economics is on the other, and agriculture, which is also talked about, is also on the other. What would be your suggestions in dealing with this problem that has hit the administration from day one?
Well, let me underscore something Professor said, and to draw his attention to past event, because he said we should learn from the past. If you've read late Shehu Shagari's book, Beckon to Serve, he said when he was to appoint presidential liaison officers as small as that office, that he thought you could just sit and announce some names. But that took more than 2 months. As soon as the list is done, you get a call from this Oba to say that the person you choose is not our choice. You get a call from an emir to say that that person you choose, we don't know him. So, this is the interest I'm talking about. The reality. If it were to be about...
Oh, by the way, sorry, PLOs were not small-time officers in those days. They were like the president's ambassadors.
Yes, ambassadors. Okay. Now, if it were to be public interest, once you've established that this person has a good pedigree, is disciplined, he can deliver, if interest is not involved, of course, interest is always involved, but when it is public interest that we're talking about, and I know that this person can deliver, there is no way I will go back to say that, except if I want to be favored, if that person gets into that office. And this is how appointments usually drag in Nigeria. It's not as if the president wouldn't want to announce overnight to say, okay, these are my people. But again, the way governance is structured and government, there are always stopgap measures. For instance, if you're going as a minister, they will say you should hand over to PAMSEC, or the most senior official of government that will continue with the business of the day. All we're saying is this. The government, if we really want to solve these problems, the government needs to do two things. One is honestly engaging with the stakeholders. And secondly, communicating, not just I shall, I will, no, but that people are seeing action. And that is what I would choose to call crisis communication. Crisis communication in the sense that we have a crisis. What are you doing to solve the problem? Okay, fine. We need to review the template. In this template, we need to take like 2 weeks. As the president, you meet with the stakeholders. This should be properly communicated to Nigerians. That, look, we are on top of this situation, but we will require 2 weeks to achieve this, but we are saying that we must achieve it within 1 week because we cannot wait. And that I've delegated Mr. ABCD to do it. Now, if you are able to do that, and no political coloration, no determination to give some people soft landing, people that have become clogged in the wheel of progress in Nigeria, people that deserve to be sacked, sack them. People that deserve accolade, people that deserve encomium, shout it on the people that deserve to be given national honors for their patriotism, do it. By the time you do this, the people will realize that we only need to wait for 1 week to queue, to make the necessary sacrifices in order to enjoy what government has promised us. But if it becomes endless promises, now you said 1 week, after 1 week, somebody is saying it's 2 weeks, another person is saying that we are not sure when this will be over, then that becomes a problem. So right from day one, what serious countries do and serious leaders do is once they make a pronouncement, they stick to it and they ensure that what they needed to do, they're able to do it. But once we started saying maybe Abdurrahman is supposed to be sacked, and we now see Obas or emirs from my community coming to pay visit to Mr. President, and then he never says anything about it again. Now you are pulling the people to the street. And by the time you pull them to the street and they start the process of protest, you can no longer contain the dimension it will take.
All right, Dr. Abdurrahman Abu Hamisu, thank you. We have guests, Professor Abiodun Adeni and, of course, Chief Obizoba Chiemelo. Oh, we're going to take a short break now. When we return, I'd like to take Professor Adeni on another item that needs to be, analyzed, because it's been one of the issues we've been experiencing for decades in this country. You're watching Good Morning Nigeria on NTA Network Service. We'll take a break now.
You have to move from the point where you protect and defend your religion to a point where you also recognize the rights of the other person, of the other religion, and protect it. So if I am protecting my own territory and my own people and trying to emphasize their rights and protect their rights, I should also be thinking about how to protect the rights of the others.
Both Islam and Christianity recognize and defer to God, and both recognize the temporariness of the life of this world, and that ultimately we all go back to God for the day of reckoning, when everybody will render an account of his life on this temporary abode.
How do I cope with this heat?
By staying 5 degrees cooler.
Body odor is caused by germs, and on hot days, the sweating and the odor are more. That's why you need to get the new improved Dettol Cool Soap, which offers up to 5 degrees instant cooling sensation.
Your skill is key to your professional growth in the competitive broadcast media industry. Take advantage of the following programs specially packaged by NTA Television College JAWS to upgrade your skill. Computer General Application. Date 8 May to 19th May 2023, 2 weeks. English Grammar and Pronunciation for Broadcasters. Date 22nd May to 9th June 2023, 3 weeks. Basic Broadcast Accounting and Auditing. Date 22nd May to 9th June 2023, 3 weeks. Marketing in the Era of Digital Broadcast. Date 13th June to 23rd June 2023, 2 weeks. Drama Production Workshop. Date 3rd July to 21st July 2023, 3 weeks. Intermediate Online News Reporting Skills. Date 24th July to 11th August 2023, 3 weeks. The course fee for the 2-week course is 120,000 Naira, while the fee for the 3-week course is 150,000 Naira only. Accommodation inclusive. All courses will hold at NTA Television College near Old Government House, Rayfield, JAWS. For further inquiries, please call 0803-079-5335 or 0806-980-9807. NTA Television College JAWS, training you to be the best you want to be. Registrar Announcer.
The counsel of our fathers.
My advice to these young people is please do not take us back to those harrowing days. You probably do not know what it is.
Nigerian youths, let's build our nation together.
All right, you're watching Good Morning Nigeria on the network service of the Nigerian Television Authority. Our guests are still with us here in the studios. I know, Kilian, you said you were going to pop a question to Professor Adeni.
Yes, exactly, and that has to do with agriculture. You know, because from history, you know that all the great nations of this world feed themselves. Yeah. That's first from that. And that we've had all manner of development plans with respect to agriculture, Green Revolution, back to farming and all of that. We also have a transformation of the agricultural transformation, during the Akumi Additional's reign as the Minister of Agriculture, which I was privileged to also cover. At a point we were nearing having a cassava bread, cassava cake, and all of that. Those things had fizzled away. Some of the institutes in this country were asked to do that, and they made good bread, confectionaries out of cassava, which of course Nigeria is the highest producer globally. But again, we have not really advanced properly. Yes, there are some positive moves to change the cut of history of agriculture in Nigeria by the just outgone administration. But for me, it's a scratch, because if you have rice in abundance and you don't have tomato purees, you don't have mango juices, you import all other agricultural produce-driven products across the globe, and then we're not doing well. Even when we import eggs, chickens, turkey, and what have you, from neighboring countries, especially South Africa, and all of that. It's painful that with all the agrarian nature of Nigeria and the kind of land mass that we have that are productive but not being put into use, what steps should this administration take, in your opinion, not to return to what it used to be, so that by the time we get on to feed ourselves as a nation, we can now be bold to say we have made a great step forward?
Thank you, Kieran. I agree with you that agriculture is a very critical sector, especially if we're talking about diversification. Oil is our mainstay over the years, and of course, we've been thinking about how we can expand the scope of any revenue beyond oil. So agriculture remains a focus. Beyond agriculture, we're also looking at steel. We're also looking at solid minerals. All these are potentials, for us that we can harness to grow in growing. And of course, allusions have been made to the size, the landmass of Nigeria. The North, for instance, has been described severally by Peter Obi as the landmass in the North. He sees it as a future crude oil, that you only need good administration, good management to be able to harness that and enhance it towards productivity and efficiency in the area of revenue generation. So we cannot deny also the fact that in history, several governments have made attempts, to revive agriculture. I remember President Obasanjo, as head of state, was the one that talked about green revolution. Another one talked about Operation Feed the Nation. Between the two of them, I think Shagari talked about green revolution, still talking about agriculture. There's a story about how, the famous story of how Malaysian farmers came to pick palm seeds, and turn Malaysia into something else in terms of agricultural production. So many things can be done, really, but again, we have to be mindful of we have to also be concerned about the suitability of the environment. How can agriculture thrive in an atmosphere of insecurity? The activity takes place in the hidden lands, in quiet places, hidden places where criminals can thrive. In a criminogenic system, those kind of businesses can find it difficult to thrive, because criminals hide where farmers would ordinarily want to be. We remember what happened with the case of Zabamari farmers in Borno State the other time. These are people, largely subsistence farmers, that rely on agriculture to feed, subsistence farming, but again, they are being disrupted by insecurity. But again, we also have to deal with the question of our being soaked in consumerism. As a developing country, African country, we are still largely Western-oriented, feeling that the things that we produce are inferior, directly or indirectly, consciously or unconsciously, to Western products. So everything we think that will gratify us psychologically has to be imported. Whereas we have the productive potentials, we have the capacity to produce, and we know productions come naturally from nature, which translates into agriculture again. So that's some other kind of reorientation that we need. But again, the overriding thing in all of these is the strengthening of institutions. Our institutions are obviously very weak, and we're not making any conscious effort to strengthen them, because we still place priority on the man rather than the institution.
What do you think the current administration should do?
Yes, What the current administration should do really is to be stronger in determination. To be strong in determination, to grow the institutions. And that can happen if he leads by example. Not saying one thing and doing the other thing. Just making sure that the law, the rules, the regulation, the ethics of the society, are prioritized above the wishes and aspirations, above the interests of individuals. When you prioritize individuals over the institutions, then it becomes a problem. And that's why we keep saying that there's a dialectical relationship between man and the institution, which means that the man is there to strengthen the institution. And at the end of the day, the institution will work in the interest of not just the man, but the generality of the populace. That's what it can do. With determination, it can get it done. But if we are seeing a continuation of the things that happened in the past, whereby government are finding it difficult, like my colleague said, to appoint people because of complexities of interest, then there's not going to be progress. Because we are saying that rise above those interests, keep your focus on merit, on capacity. If you're going to choose among technocrats, choose properly. If you're going to choose among politicians, choose properly. Make your decision and go ahead, and get the person to come and do the job. Government is governance. It's not about being nice. It's not about being kind to people. When you are kind to people, you prioritize niceness, do-goodism, above implementation, above capacity to execute, then of course there becomes a problem. It's about good decisioning, the courage to take decision, and the courage to see that people that you put in positions of power are able to implement. But if you are favoring people, thinking that interest groups are multiple, you want to satisfy all of them, definitely it's impossible. But take your decision, and keep your eye on the focus. At the end of the day, history will be kind to you, because they will know that you have actually been consistent, in keeping your eye on the ball, as the case could be.
Well, Professor Adeni, thank you very much, and Dr. Abu Hamisu, as well as Chief Chair Mello. Thanks. I was just wondering, there's some thoughts just flashed through my mind with respect to some of the critical appointments that you have referenced. Say, it's Chief of Staff or the Secretary to the Government of the Federation. The Chief of Staff isn't a constitutional position, but the Secretary to the Government of the Federation, as you would find at the state level, that Secretary of State Government, these are positions that are provided for in the Constitution. And our experience since 1999 has been fairly straightforward in terms of practice. Assuming we take two regional approaches, north and south, the Secretary of the Government of the Federation has often come from the region where the presidents come from. Obasanjo, when he was president for 2 terms, had Chief Ufo Tekaite, who was also from the south. When Yaradua was in office, he had King Ibe as SGF, and then of course when King Ibe got removed, he then had Yayale, who then became his Secretary of the Government of the Federation. Of course, Goodluck Jonathan, we also saw whom he had, of course, when he got into the groove of things with his first election in 2011. He had Ayim Pius Ayim as Secretary to the Government of the Federation. And then the immediate past administration, former President Muhammadu Buhari, first had Babachi Lawa, who's from, I think, Bauchi State, Adamawa State, and when, of course, he ran into the grass cutter issue, he was replaced, and then Boss Mustafa, who is also from Adamawa, also came in. So I think it looks fairly straightforward. I say it looks fairly straightforward, yes. But not forgetting what Abu Hamisu drew our attention to, that this person you are bringing must also be. But these are the kind of tendencies that we have seen. Chief of Staff hasn't been that straightforward, but it tends also to follow virtually the same pattern. I know that Obasanjo had General Abdullahi Mohammed, former DMI, and then of course you had some other changes here and there. But basically, I think these are fairly straightforward things, and we hope that those appointments will be made. But I want to come back to Chair Bello. Because we have had a conversation around this subject matter on what the Southeast needs to do. Because the Southeast appears to be bleeding itself through the activities of IPOB, criminal elements, and this sit at home that you just shut down your economy for 1 day in a week. As I said, we have had this conversation on Good Morning Nigeria. But some persons would also say that some of the solutions would be let me reduce that. I was going to say exogenous, which would be outside, would come from outside of the Southeast. And the analogy that is readily given would be one that former Vice President Yemi Osinbajo did. If you recall, in part of the administration, the Niger Delta boys went back to the creeks. And it took, of course, the pacification of the Niger Delta boys through visitations and then engagements, visitation by the vice president himself, as it then was, an engagement with the Niger Delta militants, for them to temporize, lay down their arms, and then started seeing a climb up again in crude oil production. Because there was a time it plunged down to well below 900,000 barrels a day. Yeah. So in the southeast, what is it that is required? Yes, people talk about governance and so on and so forth. What is it that the southeast needs at this time? Because the country cannot afford to have that part of the country in perpetual conflict or uncertainty.
Thank you very much. Just like as you were saying, maybe you forgot that during the time of Yaradua, before Yaradua came into power, South was totally shut down by the militancy. What did Yaradua did at that time? He convoked Niger Delta Youth Summit in Calabar and engaged the various militant groups and youth converge in Calabar and engage the people. It was heavily represented by then Vice President Goodluck Jonathan, who chaired that summit. And after that meeting in Calabar, the issue of militancy began to die down. That was why he created amnesty to bring people, the militants, out from the creek to come to the land, to come and be part of the governance for training and retraining. What happened to the South, we have advocated so many times that, like I said earlier, that the people lack the trust for the government. The governors are not helping matter either. Because they wake up one morning and they call meeting in the Enugu state and say they want to counter IPOD ESN, and they proclaim Ijebubago also to counter IPOD. And none of the state government or state governor have formulated any process or program how you intend to go about it. Security is about the people. If you do not engage the people, you can achieve security. Southeast have one formation of government. They have respect for PG. PG are the people who govern the community, president generals. In the various communities, every community have PG. They have their vigilance group. And even the state government have allowances they give to the community vigilance group. So why not reach out to the people, convert meeting between the local government, the PGs, and the traditional rulers? Engage the people and begin to provide solutions. By the time you engage the people, I think this issue of insecurity will begin to die down. But the people are not properly engaged. The traditional ruler for the community do not even know what the government is doing about the security in its own community. They have not convened any meeting that has to do with the youth and the traditional ruler and the opinion and community leaders. These are what is lacking. If these things are put into implementation, I bet you within weeks or months, you'll see that their insecurity will drastically die down.
Well, okay, we are short of time here, but I like the points that you made. You said, to engage the people. But I like what the people are doing in Southeast, like you said. The PGs are very powerful. And every community has vigilante group. As a matter of fact, in my local government area, in Ziago, where I come from, you can hardly operate there. If you start anything in Akama, where I come from, somebody you know will tell you that he knows about what you're doing. Yes. That's a self-help. But the governors are not helping matters. Where were the governors when IPOB ventured into ESN? But it was also open. ESN came as, okay, the IPOB said, okay, let's cash in on this, because they were keeping quiet when Omoteku was on. Yes. So that was a yawning gap. And the IPOB people tried to fill that yawning gap. And then the issue started. Now you say Bubago, that never existed. That never functioned. These are the things. I know about killings in Hamufu, for instance. And the governor of Enugu State then, didn't do anything. He didn't do anything. Killings, spontaneous killings that come, almost on a weekly basis in that part of Enugu State. But that's over now. Now, please, before we go, Hamisu, I'd like you to talk about this. Because we tend to neglect certain things that other nations are doing and making progress, especially manufacturing, local technology, homegrown technology. Because No nation can ever be great without local or homegrown technology. If you like, import every item in Japan into Nigeria, you may never be great. And we're not laying emphasis on this. I keep giving this example. In the US, when you see their budget structure, the first thing is science and technology, followed by defense, and then education, and what have you. But ours, science and tech is at the bottom, after women affairs, and what have you. And that has told a very bad story of a nation where we have professors in all strata of science, technology, and innovation, who are creative, who are even prepared to manufacture, and all of that. So what can this government do this time around to say, look, Nigerians understand, look, that if you don't make things for yourself, that you're not going anywhere?
All right, before I answer your question, let me add to what my brother said. You see, why the governors are not helping matters is that insecurity is good for the business of security vote. So, yeah, without insecurity, there will be no large security vote. So I think that is something that we need to look into, because nobody accounts for anything in terms of security vote. And that is exactly what I want to talk about when we're talking about Mr. President's speech. There is this component that is missing: educational reform in Nigeria. We are producing accountants, philosophy, political scientists,
unemployable graduates.
Unemployable graduate, not market-demanded skills. So in this century, you still have somebody who is reading banking and finance. So who is going to produce the goods that will turn into cash that the person that is reading banking and finance is going to manage? When Liu Kuai Yew wanted to reform Singapore, what did he do? He reorganized the educational sector. And he made sure that they use 2 languages for instruction: Mandarin Chinese and English. And then he categorized their institutions from the higher to the medium to the lowest. And then he went further to spend like 20 years to develop their what we call technical and vocational schools. And their technical and vocational schools are not producing beads that we are not buying, or soap that we will not use to wash our clothes. They were into pure ICT, to the extent that by the time he was leaving, he said something. He said the ICT infrastructure I've created for the people of Singapore will take another generation for them to be able to use it, because it was way ahead of the thinking of the time. So you need to train people again to use that ICT. And what did he do? He keyed into the global trend that was happening, so that he was able to build a financial center between Europe and Asia. Because he said, by the time they are closing business, right, in Washington, that is when Asians are preparing to do their business. So what did he do? He decided to build financial hub that will service the people. This is knowledge. And he did not stop there. He did produce the manpower that is needed for the economy. So any government that is coming to Nigeria today and is telling me that we are going to build infrastructure, we are going to do this, we are going to just the usual consumption thing, and you are not telling me that we are going to reform our educational sector so that we can now start thinking about AI, we can now talk about digital economy by ensuring that we have people that will take advantage of the digital space, then there is a problem. You have engineers that cannot build bridges. So what sort of engineers are we talking about? Today, we have lightening the campus in Nigeria, lightening the campus. Now, it is contractors that are lightening our campus. And then we have all the so-called federal universities of technology, which means they do not have the capacity to be given the contract to light our campus. What is it called? TechFund is giving contract for the construction of our buildings in the university. Now we have engineering department in all over Nigerian universities, but they cannot construct simple roads on the campus. They cannot construct the theater that we need on campus. They cannot light their campus. We need a federal government intervention in the form of contract to light up our campus. And
well, Doctor, I just want to. I mean, I don't know what Abu Hamisu is saying, because the immediate past administration, Federal Ministry of Works and Housing, they took out some jobs. They rehabilitated some roads on campuses, on federal universities in the country. Was there anything wrong with that?
Yes, something is wrong with that. Yes. Why should we have Department of Engineering in Foot Mina, and then you have Federal Ministry of Works appointing a contractor to be given a contract to travel to Mina that was not going to use the brains, the students. How would the student graduate with experience? And then you now say you need 15 years experience before you begin.
Dr. Abu Habis, you know we have no time, right? But what I want to point out, please, is this: the fact that look, we turn out good engineers. No doubt about that.
Yes.
I can swear for engineers in Nigeria because I have covered these people for 20 years. It's not a joke. We have fantastic engineers. In NASA is the most complex engineering setting globally. And we have a Nigerian working there, okay, Emma Gualo. And in Nigeria here, go to even Nash Comstars, a lady there can configure a phone for you. They are fantastic, but we don't even appreciate them in the first place. We don't fund them. We fund contractors. Fund these young men. They are creative. I have seen them do things. They can do any engine fabrication. They can do it. I am sure of what I'm talking about. I can tell you about 150 products by Nigerian engineers and scientists that we cannot even commercialize because nobody is going there from the private sector. All right.
All right, Professor Adedi, we know we are pressed for time. Your closing thoughts on these issues. More particularly, I mean, Chief Chiemelu reminded us of the initial steps taken by late President Umaru Musa Yar'Adua with regard to the pacification of the Niger Delta. The Southeast, when you look at it, it looks like they've been left to sort out themselves on the one hand, and then on the other hand, kinetic measures. These do not appear to have sorted out any problems. What should President Tinubu do? Very quickly.
I think the solution is actually not in kinetic. It's about some kind of subtle reconciliatory measures, I've said it elsewhere. There's nothing wrong with the president granting amnesty to Nnamdi Kanu, for instance. I mean, as an area they should chart. We should look into, and of course, government should be mindful of how they take decision. You can wait for 3 years, for 3 years to take your decision, to make your appointment. By the time you make it, people would still not be satisfied. So just take your decision, be assured, and move on. Focus on the bigger picture rather than personal, group, or narrow interests.
Thank you very much. Thank you, indeed. Professor Abiodun Adeni, Professor of Communication, Deputy Dean, School of Postgraduate Studies, Bayes University. Thank you for being here this morning. Dr. Abdul Rahman Abu Hamisu, researcher, political scientist, and public affairs analyst. It's good talking to you this morning. Of course, we had the Ambassador of Peace to the United Nations and the Director General of Strategic Planning and Implementation, Ohanes Ndigbo, General Assembly Worldwide, Chief Ubizoba Chiemelu. Thank you for coming here this morning.
Thank you very much for having me.
All right. Well, we have closed our conversation for today, but then let's get done with some sports news.
Well, but Kirian, I doubt if we have enough time for sports.
All right.
That's right. So we'll see you again tomorrow, same time, 7 o'clock in the morning. Look after yourselves. I'm Kingsley Osadolo.
And I'm Kirian Umar. I'll see you again on Friday.